Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Futboll Me Bleronin. This is the first episode that will be on Spotify and YouTube. The show that I started in my college radio station will continue online over the summer as I do this pretty much for fun over the summer. But yeah, the show that I started for a radio class is continuing online. And there has been a lot of things in the sport itself. First things first, Barcelona win La Liga. That's right, Barcelona were crowned La Liga champions on a Thursday after beating Espanyol 2-0 thanks to a goal by Lamine Yamal and Fermin Lopez. Yeah, Barcelona won the La Liga title. They've won the treble after also winning the Copa del Rey and the Supercopa de España. But yeah, Barcelona, incredible season that they have, and surely next season they're going to go more. They're most likely going to go again for the La Liga title and possibly even make it to the Champions League final next season. And even their Champions League run this season has also been quite amazing. Of course, they had that crazy loss against Inter Milan thanks to extra time. But yeah, honestly, a great season for Barcelona. I congratulate them. And not so great season for their rivals, Real Madrid, who will finish the season with nothing. Moving on to the Netherlands, PSV Eindhoven win the Eredivisie, which is the Dutch league right there. They won it after Ajax dropped a bunch of points throughout this month. Ajax were originally on top of the table. However, Ajax had gotten themselves a bunch of embarrassing losses, including several draws, losses. It was simply embarrassing for the Dutch Giants, making PSV swipe in and steal the title away from them. But yeah, PSV, they finished the Eredivisie with just 1 point above Ajax. PSV 79, Ajax 78. That season went down to the wire. But even looking at PSV stats, they've scored a crap ton of goals. They scored 103 goals in total. Meanwhile, Ajax have only scored 67. Wow, simply astonishing. But that isn't the only crazy title race. Let's go over to Italy, to Serie A, where the title race between Napoli and Inter Milan will go on to the final day, as during match day 37, Inter drew 2-2 to Lazio, and Napoli also drew 2-2 to Genoa. It's insane. Both teams are only on top thanks to the 1 point difference. Napoli was 79 points, Inter Milan was 78. Yeah, this will be a very interesting last day of the season. It will definitely go out to the wire. But also with City, the race for European qualification is also intense between Juventus, Roma, and Lazio, and to a certain extent, Fiorentina and Bologna. Juventus are fourth with 67 points, followed by Roma with 66 at fifth, Lazio 6th with 65, and the Fiorentina and Bologna 7th, 8th place both have 62. So that league's race for European qualification is going to be pretty intense right there. Simply amazing. It's definitely a new age for Italian soccer, Italian football. And it looks like Serie A is making its way back to becoming a very entertaining and competitive league. But seeing how the Serie A season stands out is simply amazing. However, one team that hasn't had a good season, AC Milan, they have missed out on European qualification. They won't be playing in Europe next season after they got a 3-1 loss to Roma. It's embarrassing for the Italian Giants. Their sole goal in that game was by João Felix. Meanwhile, Roma's 3 goals were by Mancini, Paredes, and Cristante. Yeah, it's a little bit shocked because speaking about Roma, they've had a pretty decent season right now. They're on the brink for Champions League qualification. They're guaranteed a spot in Europe again. It's going to be interesting how they play out, especially with Claudio Ranieri after he managed his last home game. They'll play one more game away on the road against Torino. But yeah, Serie A has been an interesting one. A very entertaining league to watch. I mean, you watch this league and it's like, wow, Italian football is back. It's back. As the season's wrapping up, many of the leagues are coming to an end. For example, Sporting Club have just won the Liga Portugal. They've won it with 82 points, 2 points above their rivals, the Benfica, right there. Yeah, a little quick shout out to the Portuguese league. Once again, congratulations to Sporting. Also, another intense rivalry. Galatasaray have just won the Turkish league. They finished, as of right now, they finished with 89 points. Just, wow, 8 points above their local rival Fenerbahce, yeah. But, yeah, but Fenerbahce, it's going to be interesting how Fenerbahce do next season, and will Jose Mourinho still have his job with that club? It's simply crazy, because when it comes to the Turkish league, you only think about Galatasaray and Fenerbahce. Most of the other games, people don't really think about. Sure, you got some, teams right there that may play in Europe for a while, like Besiktas and Istanbul Başakşehir, or maybe Trabzonspor. But yeah, Galatasaray, they finish above the Turkish league, and they will be in next season's Champions League. In England, the FA Cup final took place between Crystal Palace and Manchester City. In a surprising game, Crystal Palace beat Man City 1-0 thanks to a goal in the 16th minute by Eze. Later on, City will get a penalty, but it was denied by the Crystal Palace goalkeeper, Dean Henderson. Wow. In a game that looked like that City should have won it, especially with a team that had 80% possession, they lost the FA Cup final, and Crystal Palace win their first ever professional trophy. This is simply amazing what had happened. And it's a failed season for Manchester City. They finished the season with no trophies, but you could count the Community Shield as one, but nobody counts the Community Shield as a real trophy. Come on, let's be serious. But yeah, it was a shock for the Premier League, a big Premier League large team, Big Six team, as they outdid Crystal Palace in nearly every single stat except in goals. Wow. But yeah, it's a little bit shocking for Manchester City, because in a game that looked like that they could have won it, they didn't. They failed again. Yeah, this is probably one of the worst seasons Manchester City has had for a while right now, at least for the last 10 years, because normally in every other City season, they've won a trophy. They've won silverware. However, in this, they didn't. They didn't win it, and yeah. And the only thing Manchester City have left is hopefully qualify for next season's Champions League, as right now in the Premier League, the race for the top 6 is going to be insane. So far, 2 Premier League teams are guaranteed Champions League qualifications. Those are the current champions, Liverpool, and Arsenal will be going to next season's Champions League. However, the other 3 Champions League spots are going to be highly contested. And all of these are going to be contested by Newcastle, Chelsea, Aston Villa, Manchester City, and Nottingham Forest. Yeah, 5 teams on the last day of the season are going to fight out for Champions League qualifications. As of the publication of this episode, Man City do have 2 more games left in the Premier League. They will play against Bournemouth, and they will play their last game on the road against Fulham. But I'm also having doubts that they could even beat those 2 teams. I mean, well, they look like it. Sure, it looks like that Manchester City should beat those teams. Yet again, we saw with the Crystal Palace game, they could dominate in every single moment and still fail to show a result. It's gonna be a tough last 2 match days for Manchester City before they go off and play in the Club World Cup. But yeah, seeing how Manchester City have been performed, it's been mediocre. I mean, it isn't as bad as Manchester United, which I'll talk about them later on. But still, it's been I mean, for a club like that, finishing the season without a trophy, yeah, there's going to be a lot of problems that the club are going to have to deal with. But yeah, because of how well English teams have performed in Europe this season, top 5 of the Premier League will be Champions League, while 6th place will be Europa League. At this point, anything could happen on the last day of the season. Any one of those teams could qualify for the Champions League, and only one of them will be in the Europa League, and the other one will miss out. Yeah, but it's going to be a very interesting one. But as this Premier League season has been a weird one, what would normally be the big six teams didn't finish in the top six. The only ones that I could think that did are Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City. Yet Man United, Spurs are not out there. They're only just above the relegation zone, in which, they're safe because Leicester City, Ipswich Town, and Southampton have already been confirmed to be relegated. Yet the other teams that are surprising, Newcastle, Aston Villa, and Nottingham Forest, they've had an incredible season. They have an incredible season. I mean, Nottingham Forest was one of the few teams that actually beat the current champions, Liverpool. But yeah, this has been a pretty weird Premier League season. Speaking about England, I'm not going to talk too much about this, but the EFL playoff finals will go on. The EFL Championship final will be against Sheffield United versus Sunderland. The winner of that will be playing in the Premier League. In League One, Charlton Athletic will play against Leyton Orient. The winner of that will be in the Championship next season. And for League Two, AFC Wimbledon will play against Walsall. And the winner of that will go into League One. But yeah, simply a crazy moment and a most likely crazy last day in England. And I have a topic right here that I haven't really talked about before, but it's actually the MLS, because over the weekend, there have been 4 derby games in the MLS. And let's go over what happened. The Hudson River Derby, which is the rivalry between New York City versus New York Red Bulls. New York City won 2-0 thanks to a goal by Alonso Martinez and Maximiliano Morales. The game, looking at the stats, New York Red Bulls outdid the possession by 65%, yet it wasn't enough for them to win, as New York City FC won that game. And probably the biggest derby in MLS, El Tráfico happened. LAFC played away against LA Galaxy. The game ended in a 2-2 draw. LA Galaxy, their 2 goals both came from Marco Reus. Meanwhile, LAFC's goal came from Dennis Boganua and Nathan Ordaz. And in a derby which has probably one of the funniest names of a derby that I could ever find, the Hell is Real Derby, which made me wondering, what kind of name is that? Trust me, I mean, you should have seen me when I first saw that name. But it was actually the derby between Columbus Crew and FC Cincinnati. That game ended 1-1. A penalty for Columbus by Diego Rossi, and then an early goal by Denke for Cincinnati. That game ended 1-1. And then finally, the last derby, actually the second to last derby, we got the Texas Derby. FC Dallas lost at home against Houston Dynamo. Houston Dynamo scoring 2 pass Dallas during that matchup right there. Those 2 goals came by Jack McGlynn and Griffin Dorsey. And then the newest derby in the MLS, it's the Florida Derby. Inter Miami lost 3-0 to Orlando City. Ouch. For a team that has Messi, you can't win every game. Although they had 65% possession, it wasn't enough. Orlando City scored 3 goals thanks to Luis Muriel, Marco Pasic, and Digger Dan Thorlarsson. Meanwhile, for the Premier League champions, Liverpool, they're already going ahead with the signings. They just signed Jeremy Frimpong. I mean, well, it's not official, but it has been confirmed that Liverpool will sign Jeremy Frimpong from Leverkusen. He's going to be a great addition on for the team. And Liverpool have been putting eyes on a bunch of players so far. Right there, including Milos Kerkez and Xavi Simons. Also, another player that has also been linked to Liverpool is actually Manchester City's Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne will leave Manchester City, and Liverpool could sign him on a free transfer. And recently, Mohamed Salah, Liverpool's top player, was asked, would he be willing to play with Kevin? And Salah would want to play with Kevin De Bruyne. Imagine a combo of those 2 together. That's going to be a ruthless combo for that Liverpool side. As next season, after winning the league, probably the main focus for the team is not only win the league again, but also win the Champions League. And speaking about the Champions League, Europe's big 3 Club Cup competitions finals are going to be happening. The Champions League final, PSG versus Inter Milan. The Europa League final, Tottenham versus Manchester United. And then the Conference League final, Real Betis versus Chelsea. Now, what do I think about these matchups? Champions League and Conference League, I like. The Europa League, though, oh my gosh, this is probably going to be one of the most disappointing Europa League finals. Because you look where both of those teams are. Tottenham and Man United, ouch. They didn't do crap in the Premier League. They didn't do anything. They didn't show up in the Premier League. Yet in Europe, they showed up. Tottenham are 17th and Man United are 16th at the moment, each with one game to go. I have doubts that they're going to even move up one or two places. They've just been performing terrible. You look at their league records. They barely have more than 11 wins. Man United, 10 wins, 18 losses, 9 draws. Spurs, 11 wins, 21 losses, and 5 draws. Simply terrible. Meanwhile, for the Champions League, PSG have won the Liga, and Inter Milan, they're going to be fighting out for the last thing to win Serie A. I mean, this is going to be a very tough last few weeks for Inter Milan, as they're looking to win a double. It's going to be all or nothing for the Italian Giants. As for the Conference League final, Real Betis versus Chelsea, it's going to be an interesting one. Chelsea have had an okay season. They're still going to fight out for Champions League qualifications right there. Meanwhile, with Real Betis, I mean, although I've said his name many times on radio, but I can't wait to see what Antony does for the team, because Antony is also in a real interesting position. While Betis have missed out on Champions League qualification, they're most likely going to be playing in next season again in the Europa League. And Antony is in an interesting position because he's loaned out to Betis from Manchester United. He could be the first player to win 2 European trophies in the same season. If he wins the Conference League with Betis, that's 1. And if Man United beats Spurs in the Europa League final, that'll be 2 trophies into his name, because during the beginning of the season, he played in the Europa League for Man United before getting loaned out to Betis. It's going to be interesting to see how those finals play out. It's going to be a weird one, especially the Europa League final. This is probably the most interesting and most disappointing matchup that you can come up with. I'm shocked how those two teams who didn't do anything in the league, yet they're in a Europa League final. And the thing is, it's going to be intense because both those teams not only are going to be playing for that trophy, whoever wins that game is going to be in the Champions League. So yeah, we can have a situation where a team who just above the relegation zone last season will play in the Champions League. Can you believe this? The UEFA Nations League final will take place in June, with the semifinal matches being June 4th and June 5th. And the final will take place on June 8th, along with the third place match. The semifinal matchups are Germany versus Portugal and Spain versus France. What do I think about this? I think Germany will go in the final, Spain will go in the final, and then Spain will win it all. Spain are currently the European champions after beating England in the Euros final last year. Yeah, but anything could happen for them. For Portugal, it could be one last chance for Ronaldo to win a trophy for the Portuguese national team. And France, this could be a moment for them to show up, to get back up, as 2022, they did make it to World Cup final, but lost, and then they had an okay performance. They had a pretty good performance in the Euros. But enough with UEFA tournaments. Earlier, I was talking about Manchester City. But yeah, how do you go that whole season without a trophy when you have a pretty strong one? I mean, this is definitely a team that overestimated their chances. And it's been a tough season. It's certainly a tough one for Pep Guardiola. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting seeing how they go on throughout the rest of the season, as now they may just miss out entirely on European qualifications. They could lose their next 2 matches. They could lose to Bournemouth tomorrow, and they could lose away to Fulham. So it's going to be a very tough one. Those 2 games are going to be very critical, especially when you saw that City performance in the FA Cup final. Not that much. They lost to Crystal Palace. Speaking about Crystal Palace, this has been the year of underdogs. Throughout the sport, 4 underdog teams have won trophies, whether it be their first ones in history or after massive trophy droughts. We first saw this during the EFL Cup final when Newcastle beat my team Liverpool in that final. But yeah, I mean, sure, that final I was a little bit upset. I mean, they beat us 2-1, but yeah, but especially for Newcastle, them winning their first trophy uh, in 70 years. I mean, you can see how much they wanted to win that trophy. Pretty much. I mean, a goal from Dan Burns and then Alexander Isak sealed it in. Liverpool really only had a chance during the stoppage time thanks to that goal by Chesia. But yeah, but that was one. But then you go throughout the rest of Europe, and then you saw something insane. Because back in April, Dutch side Go Ahead Eagles won the KNVB Cup thanks to a penalty shootout. First, AZ Alkmaar scored in the 54th minute thanks to penalty. However, in stoppage time, Go Ahead Eagles got a penalty, and then they made it. And then the game, continued on. They went to a shootout, and then they won 4-2 in the shootout. And then in Italy, Bologna shocked everybody. They beat AC Milan in the Coppa Italia final thanks to a goal by Danadoye in the 53rd minute, which shows Milan's embarrassing season that they had. But yeah, a little bit shocking right there. And then just now, FA Cup final, Crystal Palace beat Manchester City. A little bit of an underdog story, a little bit of a comeback story, but also speak about comebacks. Borussia Dortmund. Just over a month ago, they were mid-table in the Bundesliga. However, just recently, they just gave themselves so many comebacks for them to finish 4th in the Bundesliga and go into next season's Champions League. They finished 4th in the Bundesliga with 57 points. The Bundesliga season has concluded right for the year. But yeah, it's shocking because, you can see the timeline that Dortmund have. Their last, when they lost Augsburg, it looked like Dortmund could be finished for the season. They could miss out European qualifications. However, they beat Leipzig, they beat Mainz, Freiburg, they drew against Bayern, they beat Gladbach, Hoffenheim, Wolfsburg, Leverkusen, and Holstein Kiel. Yeah, it's crazy because I thought that they weren't gonna make it. I thought they were going to miss out on Europe, and it was going to be a disappointing season for the German Giants. Yeah, shocking right there. But also in Germany, Hamburg have just been promoted. The legendary German side who won a European Cup in the 80s, I believe 1981, have just re-secured their promotion into the Bundesliga. Just amazing. And you can see how much the Hamburg fans wanted to see this happen. The pitch invasion that they had was just everything. They knew they were promoted after a 6-1 win against Ulm and then other wins against Darmstadt and Karlsruhe. But yeah, I'm kind of happy to see this legendary German side be back into the first division in Germany right there. But yeah, it's been a crazy season right there. Also, speak about craziness. So I'm a Liverpool fan. And as I'm recording today, they just lost 3-2 to Brighton away on the road right now. We took the lead in the first half thanks to a goal by Harvey Elliott and Schlotterbeck, but then Brighton scored 3 goals. What do I think about this? I mean, do I really care? I don't really care that much because, we've already won the league. So it's yeah, but do we really have to worry that much? No. I mean, let's just win our last game against Crystal Palace at home so we can have a win while we lift the trophy. Because, we lost to Chelsea, we lost to Brighton, and we tied against Arsenal. This is what I like to call, this is literally a drunk Liverpool side. I mean, when you see Arne Slot partying about celebrating the title win, I mean, it's just it's one of those things where, even as champions, you got to take a little bit of a break. Especially with the end of the season. It doesn't matter. We already had a season that we love. Winning our 20th title alone is one of the best things that have happened to us. And it goes to show that Liverpool is better than Manchester United. Come on. It's true. I mean, you see how Man United perform in the league. I have doubts that they can even win the Europa League. This could be the first season that we will see Tottenham win a trophy. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about before I end the show, Carlo Ancelotti will be the next manager of the Brazil national team. It has been confirmed by the Brazilian FA. Ancelotti will leave Madrid after their last La Liga season, and he will go on to be Brazil's coach. This is going to be exciting, as Brazil, for a while, they've been, although they're a legendary national team, they've been going through a little bit of a hiatus lately. It's going to be interesting to see how Carlo Ancelotti manages his team, especially a year ahead of the World Cup. But that is all I'll have to do it for today. Not that much to talk about, a bit of a short episode, but I hope it was one that you still enjoy. I can't wait to talk about more about this sport, especially over the summer, with tournaments like the Club World Cup, the Nations League Finals, and the CONCACAF Gold Cup, and crazy transfers that will happen over the summer. But I hope you have a nice day, and this has been Futboll Me Bleronin. I'm Bleran Krajčevse, and have a nice day.